Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Tryon. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Block of the Month Club. We are on block 9, the Peony Star. And this one's a little different. And I got to be honest, I found the pattern in this one difficult to focus on. A couple times I had to be lay it out and really look at it to kind of see it. But now that it's together and I'm seeing it like this, it couldn't be more obvious, but maybe you'll find that too. But it's fairly straightforward to put together, especially since the center block is just a square. There's no having to do anything much in there. But we are doing a couple square in the square in the side units, and then some half square triangles on the corner units. And this is the first block we've come across that, look, has a border around it. So that's something to keep in mind when you're cutting, that you're going to be cutting these long, skinny pieces, pieces I and J. Anyway, so let's go over to block 9 in our book. If you're just tuning in, we're doing the Barn Star sampler, and all of the blocks to make this gorgeous quilt, all of the videos to help you make them are posted here on the Facebook page, so you can tune in and follow along anytime. We are at block 9. So that's where we're starting tonight, and I'm going to let you guys go ahead and cut them out. I've got mine already cut out because the cutting takes some time and is pretty straightforward. Just remember, like I said, out of the background fabric, we're doing those skinny I and J pieces, which is different. So it's 1 inch by 15.5 and 1 inch by 16.5. That's going to make that border. Cool. So the other thing I want to remind you of, if you've been following along, is to go ahead and put your little fabric pieces on the swatch sheet that we sent you, or that you can download. That way you're keeping all of your fabrics organized. But the first thing we're going to do to get started on block 9, the Peony Star, is we're going to make some half square triangles. That's step 1. And we're going to be taking an A piece and a B piece. And I just want to remind you that if you need extra written instructions on how to do any of these blocks, the special techniques section of the book on page 74, 75, 76, it takes you through how to do the corner units, how to make flying geese, how to do a house unit that we're coming to, what we're doing right now, half square triangles. It's under triangle units, and half square triangles are right here on page 77. There's also some tips on squaring it up, which brings me to something that might be useful for you to have ready in finishing this block especially, and that is these little rulers here. I have a 3.5 inch ruler, and I have a 6.5 inch square ruler. I got these out today because that's the size of our little units here. So the half square triangles, the square and the square, and even the corner units. When you have that many that are going to need to be trimmed up to that size, that's when I was like, yes, definitely, let's have these rulers on standby. I've also got a couple of other little rulers for drawing my lines on. This one's a great one. And then just I like a skinny ruler too, sometimes for just cutting them. I find it a little bit easier than, just trimming things up with the big squares. These are great for when we're going to be trimming. So I'm just going to set all these aside for right now, apart from this ruler here, because I am going to draw my lines onto my A and B piece. Now I'm just doing 1, remember, because I've already made my first block. You're going to be making 2 of these blocks for the Barn Star sampler. The quilt requires 2 of these. So I'm going to encourage you to make quick work out of the steps and to be doing all of your pieces at one time and chain piecing. So I'll be calling that out as we go. But in order for me to not be here for the, 3 hours making these blocks, I've worked ahead a little bit. So you'll just have to repeat it for the number of squares you need. So for this, you're going to make 8 units. So you're going to really make 16. So let's take our little line here. Now, I like this ruler because you can draw on either side of it. You line up this center line, and then you can draw the line that you'll sew on here. Normally, when you're making half square triangles, you might take a longer ruler and draw your line directly down the center. That's fine too. And then you would sew a 1/4 inch away from that center line. What using this little ruler allows you to do is match up the center line that's marked in the middle of the ruler, and then you just sew directly on that line. That way you're sewing right on a line instead of having to measure and sew a 1/4 inch over. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew right directly on that line. Now you're going to go ahead and mark all of your A and B pieces all at once. And then you're going to chain piece them one side and then the other side all at once. So you have a total of 16 because you'll be making 2 blocks. And I'm going to go ahead and sew right on that line. Just a reminder, I have reduced my stitch length to 1.8 just for more solid construction when you're piecing. And because we're using Deco Bob in here, you may want to reduce the tension. Just so that it's nice and tight because this is a very thin thread. But you'll test out your machine. And by now, if you've been doing this the whole time, you probably have it down. Okay. Speaking of which, pop my thread right out of the needle there. Back in. When you're using the needle threaders on your machines, make sure you take it nice and slow when you lift up. Often I hear people say their needle threader doesn't work, and it's because they're going too fast. Okay, so I just stitched along the one side. I'm going to now stitch along that other side. And remember, you'll be doing all of your one side and then all of your other side. Feels like my bobbin is clanking around in here a little bit. Something's up. Something's up. I'm going to rethread my bobbin here. Rethread my machine. Whenever it feels like something's clunking around, oh, yes, the thread is caught. When it feels like it's clunking around, it probably is clunking around. We hear the problem with sewing before we see it, almost every time. So if you hear something that sounds off, probably is. So I could hear that clunking, but I didn't want to believe it because, you know, I'm live here with you guys and I just want things to go smoothly. But when you hear it, believe it. All right. I am going to re-stitch that one side, see if it's better because I lost a few stitches there at the beginning. See, now it's sounding good. Just humming along. Sorry for not trusting you when you warned me that something was wrong. Okay. So now what we can do is go ahead and trim. You're trimming your half square triangles. You'll have all of yours done, sewn on either side. And then you need to cut straight down the middle. You guys are probably like, yeah, half square triangles. We've done a million of them by now. But if you're just tuning in and you're new, you can do it. And then look, you open it up and you've got your half square triangle. And we are going to press these towards the pink. And today I'm using my little iron. I like this little one because it has steam. Not all little handhelds have steam. This one does. I've just been, like, my wrist has been hurting lately. And so I've been trying to, like, just keep things as light as possible. And I like that I can still steam with this one. I know some people don't like steam, but I do. And so this one's been great. Okay, so with all of your half square triangle units now, you'll see that you've got some trimming to do. And if you're fairly confident, you can stack a few up like this to do the trimming. And this is what I'm going to bring over my 3.5 by 3.5 inch ruler. And now you really want to make sure that you are exactly underneath because you don't want them trimmed wrong. And you'll notice that this ruler has this line down the center. Maybe we zoom in just a wee bit. So that it's got this line down here. And what that allows you to do is line up your middle line of your fabric on your half square triangle and then slide it up and down like this to reach your 3.5. Normally with rulers, we're going up and down like this, but here, because we can line up that middle line, this is going to allow us to trim and have your half square triangles more square. So now all I need to do is go around and now it's squared up with that line. And you notice I did 2 at once here. So that makes pretty quick work of that. Okay, so I'll set my little 3.5 inch aside. But you're going to do that for all 16 of your half square triangles. And now, fairly easy, we're going to take our D and C pieces like this. Take off my little letters. And we're going to just form this block right here. This is the part we're on, step 2. So I'm going to line up D, and then I'm going to line up my half square triangle, making sure the pink is facing up. And then this time the pink is going to be facing down. So we're sort of getting that bow tie in the middle. And that's our laid out little subunit. This is a corner unit. So we're going to just sew these together. Now you can go ahead and lay out all of yours and do them all at one time, which will make it pretty quick to chain piece these. So we're just doing a 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. I'm using the HP foot here, which is perfectly scant 1/4 inch, means it's just a little under a 1/4 inch when you're sewing, because that accounts for the measurement of the thread on the inside. So when you fold it over, you get a perfect 1/4 inch. So that's what the HP foot allows for. If you don't have the HP foot, you have a regular 1/4 inch foot, that's cool too. You may just want to move your needle over 1 point. Or get in touch with me and I can let you know if we can get an HP for the machine that you have, or if you're ready to upgrade for one that has one. Okay, let's open this up. And always lay out your block again. There we go. And we are pressing towards the pink. So I can give that a little finger press first. Pressing towards the pink. And this is going to allow us to be able to nest these seams. So they're going opposite ways. So towards the half square triangles here, and I'm just going to press them. Okay. Lay it out again. We're always laying out our blocks because it's so easy to get mixed up, especially in this one when so many of the blocks look the same. All right, so now we're going to go right sides together and we're going to nest these two seams. And that means we're going to take the ridge on this one and the ridge on this one, which are now on opposite sides because we pressed one way and one the other way, and we're going to butt those together. You can kind of feel it with your thumb and your finger. And then grab a pin and right through that center seam. As long as those are nested, I'm not too worried about the ends. You can kind of see like a wee bit coming off the end here and a little bit coming off the end there. We want to keep it straight, but this is how we know our points are going to line up. Don't run over your pins. And now take the opportunity here. See how this is lying a little like it's not flush? The red is peeking out. So take your chance here to push that back over. And just with your finger, you can kind of guide it in. And you're going to do that for all 8 of your blocks. So you'll have 8 of these for each block. Okay, so now we need to press. Now this one I found a little confusing because it didn't really tell me in the instructions where, like, how to press this middle seam. It showed that one would be down and one would be up, but it doesn't show whether to open them or not. So what I did on my first one was I opened this seam. So that's what I'm going to suggest you do too. But that way, you know it's going to lay nice and easy no matter where it ends up. So I'm just going to open that seam, even though there's no instructions there on what to do. But it does show that the pressing is this way and this way, but still we need to press this. So I'm going to press it open. Okay. And now our corner units here, all 8 of them, need to be trimmed to 6.5 by 6.5. And again, that's where this ruler that already measures 6.5 comes in handy. So you're going to, again, that center line up with your corners. And anything sticking out the edge is fair game. But you want to make sure you're sliding it up and down on the diagonal, not up and down like this, in order to get the squarest square possible. So use your points here as your guide. And if you've got a little extra on one or the other, then you can slide it up and down that way. Otherwise, you're going right around and taking off anything that's peeking out. Okay. See, not too much. It's good. So you'll trim up all 8 of yours, and that's why this will be handy, because 8 just goes faster when you can do it like that. Okay, and set aside your corner units just for now. We'll be back to them in no time. And we're going to start now making the side units. And this is where we're going to do our square in the square. Gosh, this has had a lot of square in the squares. Like, we're good at this by now. So we're going to take our leftover C pieces. Don't be confused when you're pulling C's and D's for your half square triangles. You've got extra C and D's that are used in other places. For example, like you've got 4 extra C's that are used in the side units, and then you have 1 extra D that's used in the center. So don't just turn all the C's and D's into, or all the C's into half square triangles, because you'll be using blocks that you need for this step. Ask me how I know. I did that. Anyway, I'll warn you now. All right. I've got my F squares, and I've got some E squares. And we're going to do these. We're going to chain piece these. You're going to be making 4 for one block and 4 for another block. So you're going to make a total of 8. And what you want to do to start is just on the back sides of all of these squares, so all of your E's and all of your F's, you're going to draw a straight line down the diagonal of the back of the fabric. If you have the laser, this is when you can use it. Lucky if you have the laser. But just go ahead and line all those little pieces up and go ahead and put lines on the backs of all of them. The white, like the E's and the F's. I'm loving seeing the pictures of your finished blocks in the Homemade with Jennifer Tryon Facebook group. It's great to see them coming along. So definitely post when you're finished this block. I'd love to see it. Okay, once you're going to have a big long row of these because there's tons of these. And then you're going to start with, let's start with F. And you're going to make sure that your line, your diagonal line, is starting at the top here and going, so starting in the center and coming down to the left. And then we'll have another one that's going to go here. But we can only sew these one at a time anyway. So I would line up all of your C pieces and 1 F square in a big long line, and we'll start chain piecing these. If you're having a hard time getting that small little point up into your needle, then use a little scrap of fabric as a leader so that everything is nice and engaged when you're starting to sew. I've got the HP foot on here, so you don't need to do that because that's part of the benefit. It'll take a really small tip. But if you've got a bigger plate underneath, you might need a leader fabric. Okay, so we've got that line, just we're sewing directly on that line, and then we're kind of flipping it up, and we're going to give it a little test to make sure it's fairly square. We haven't gone too far off the mark before we trim. So that's not too bad. And then we're going to take our ruler and we're going to trim 1/4 inch. So lay the 1/4 inch line on your ruler on the stitches so that you trim 1/4 inch away. And now we've been saving all of these little pieces and sewing them. These ones are particularly small. So I'm not sure if we're going to have a use for these or not, but I'm going to sew them up anyway, just in case. But they are very small. You're going to have little kind of 3/4 inch blocks here, but maybe they'll be super cute. So I'll sew them anyway, since we're at it. Okay, so now that that side's done, we're going to go ahead and do the opposite, like the bottom side, with the E square, so the opposite color of fabric. And we're starting from the right with the line coming in to the bottom center. And you're going to line all of yours up in a row and then chain piece them all together. Do you notice when I'm sewing, like, see where my hands are here? They're not really right in and getting it in there. I just sort of guide it with my finger. The machines are really good at going straight, so you don't have to muck with it too much. The more fiddling you do, the less straight your line will be. So try to keep that in mind, to just let the machine do its job of going straight. You're there to just sort of guide it. Okay, let's just test. Is it looking kind of square, pretty square? Yep, good. Better than the other one even. So again, I'm going to trim off that end. And you just are setting yourself up here. You're going to do all of these at one time. You're just kind of setting yourself up for a little bit of assembly line action here. You know, kind of methodically sew each side on each one and get yourself set up. So you're going to end up with a shape like this. I'm not sure what this looks like a napkin holder or something. But then we're going to come out, and we do want to press these before we get to the other ones. So we're pressing out towards the light fabric, out towards the corners. Okay. All right, so let's make sure we're laying it out with the correct one at the top. And let's take the opposite. So we're starting with our line that we've drawn. It's going to be in the middle and coming down towards the right side. Make sure it's lined up. And you're going to do that for all of yours. And you're just going to chain piece those. And just be warned, there is some overlap here. That's okay. Like, it's going to overlap over top of the other side. That's maintaining that 1/4 inch seam allowance so that when we A, trim, and B, sew this to the next piece, we don't cut off our point. So don't be alarmed if yours is going overlapping. That's normal. Okay. Test. Pretty good. Again, I'm just sewing up those little scraps. Those act as a good leader also. And then next one, we're going to start with our line. Should be pointing to the bottom middle, up to the left middle. And then we can sew that right on that line too. Do it for all of yours. Okay, test, good. Okay, and now we're going to press out towards the corners. Looks cute. So you're going to end up with 8 of these little units for 2 blocks. Each block gets 4 of these, just like that. And then the next step is pretty simple. We're just going to take our H and our G pieces. So obviously H matches up with the white and your G matches up with your color. And we're going to turn this into a bigger unit. So we're going to go right sides together here. So you can set aside your G piece for a minute and take all of your H's and right sides together, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam there. Now here, I want you to pay attention to, you can probably see through your unit and where your point is. So here you can kind of see, can we see it if I hold it up a little? If I take this off, you'll be able to see. Our point is right here. And we don't want to sew over the point. We want the point to be maintained. So just take a look at where your needle is going to fall when you get to that point. Just as a way of ensuring that you haven't sewn over your point. And then that way, when you reveal it, your point is still there and not like covered like this or something. You know what I mean? You still have your nice point. So if you can kind of pay attention to that when you're sewing, you'll protect those points. All right, let's do this side. Again, we can practice protecting the points. The other thing you can do is flip it and sew with your point side up. And then you can really see exactly where, and you want to kind of hit just to the right of where your thread crosses. And this is not to say if you don't hit the perfect point that your block is ruined or anything like that. It's fine. It's just more, hey, if we can protect them, let's do it. If the odd one gets nicked off, what's going to happen? Nothing. All right, and now we can press this out, away from the points. And you're going to end up with 8 of these. And then what happens here is when we're assembling our whole block, we're going to have our top row, our middle row, and our bottom row, but they're all using these side units. So even though they're called side units, they're kind of in the middle. It's a little confusing. So we're going to go ahead and get our top, our corner units. You can kind of see here. And you want to make sure you're taking the time here to lay out your block, because it's very easy to accidentally turn this in one of these other ways. We want to make sure at the top that the purple is the corner. And we want to make sure that the white is the top here. So we're laying it out like this with the purple in the top and then your colored down here. And this is going to go right sides together. All right, so we're going to put this right sides together and sew a 1/4 inch. Again, I'm going to protect that point. I'm going to see it coming. There we go. And we're going to press this towards the outside, like towards the corner unit. Just like this. Can you pause the recording? Jason, can you pause for a second? Can you pause her? Okay, so then you're going to just take your other corner unit, and so that you're sandwiching that, what they call the side unit, in the center. Just make sure your purples are in the corner and your reds are facing in. So you can go right sides together. No seams to nest here, but you can put a pin right in the center point if it helps. I'll make sure I'm really lined up here. There we go. I'm just checking to make sure my seams here aren't flapping over, getting caught on the presser foot or the plate and then folding over. Okay. All right. And again, we're going to press this towards the sides. Got a little flip here, press it back down. Okay, and then, so you're gonna do that for the top and the bottom, making sure your purples are the corners. And then we need to do our middle. So we're gonna take our leftover D purple square and sew it to one side unit and then sew it to the other side unit. And again, you can do all of yours at once. And we are pressing towards the purple. Okay, so now lay out your block, because this is where I found it, even though like when I see it on the screen, it seems very like obvious. Oh, what have I done here? Look what I did. I've got the wrong, look, I sewed the wrong one. Okay, this is why you have to lay out your block. This one's, it's hard to see this one, you guys. Okay, I'm gonna quickly just zip this out. And just turn it around. We all make mistakes. When you are seam ripping out, press it flat again. So it's like you're starting with a new unsewn edge. Even, it'll just be our secret that this was ever sewn more than one time. So your colorful part stays facing the middle. All right, come on, Jen, get it together. There we go. This goes with this. And now I can be an expert again. Did I ever profess to be an expert? I'm just really doing it with you guys. All right. And even if you did it and you didn't notice, your quilt wouldn't be any less warm. It's fine. All right, there we go. We're back on track. So we're pressing towards the purple. There we go. This is why you always sit with the seam ripper right beside you, because you need it sometimes. All right, now we're going to go right sides together. We do have a little bit of nesting to do here on the edge of your purple center block. We can nest it right, butt those two together. If you've pressed them the correct way, they should nest up nicely. Same with here on this side. Press it together. Grab another pin. And I'm going to sew right along. 1/4 inch. I'm just taking care to make sure none of these come flipping up, so I'm holding them down as they approach. And this could be if you have a stiletto where you use it so that your fingers don't get too close. Kind of get that right down in there. Especially on these thicker ones. Get that right down in. There we go. Okay. And I'm not going to press this one yet because I'll just bring everything to the iron at the same time, but I'm going to get my bottom row. Yep. I was like, oh, did I put it the wrong way? Nope. Red's up, purple's down. Right sides together. And again, we're going to nest those seams. Put a little pin. And we're going to sew right along. Just holding down those bulkier parts as they come underneath the presser foot there so they don't get flipped up. Not running over our pins. Here we go. And now we think we're done here, but we're not. We still have those skinny little border pieces to put on the end. I've got one on here just for a time saver, but we still have to do that. So we're going to press this towards the ends, so away from the middle. And then we're going to attach those skinny pieces to make the border. Careful you're not ruining any of your other good pressing as you're going here. And give it a flip because you want to make sure you don't have anything lost, like a big ledge. This is when I miss my big iron for sure. I like doing big blocks on the big iron. The small iron is good for the little tiny pieces, but nothing beats the big iron. I just don't have it set up here today. Nothing beats the big iron for your final presses. Okay, looks nice. So now we want to grab our eye pieces and our J pieces. Whoops, J goes at the side, I goes at the top. So we're going to do, am I missing one? Did I drop it? Maybe. Oh, it's on the floor. Yay. Okay, it was on the floor. Shocker. Okay, so the eyepiece goes at the top and at the bottom. And you're just going to line it up. If you need to put a couple pins in to keep it centered, then go ahead. But if you've sewn everything pretty accurately, you should have just enough. If not, just do your best. So I'm putting a couple little pins in the middle and at the end, and then I kind of know how good has my sewing been. Do I have a little wee bit at the end here? Yes, I do. Oh no. But look, we can stretch that out a little, and if we have our pins in there, we kind of know where we need to start. So I say, if you have a little bit, you can make it work. And then we're going to sew that 1/4 inch all the way along. And the pin helped me have exactly the right amount, even if I did have to stretch it a wee bit. It's okay. Up we go. And now we're going to press this towards the white. All right, and now when you've got the two ends on, now your J pieces will fit on the sides. Now, I should have mentioned that your inside unit needs to measure 15.5 by 15.5. And so if you have some trimming to do, you should do that. Okay. I'm going to pause. Okay, we're just going to add this. Now, if you're watching this and you haven't cut out your pieces yet, or you're watching this first, on the I and J pieces, you're going to have quite a bit of extra white fabric anyway. Go ahead and give yourself an extra inch at the end. You can always trim it. And then that way, if your sewing is a little off, you're not having to stretch so much. So just keep that in mind when you're cutting these pieces, that, hey, give yourself a little bit of extra, and then you won't worry. Okay. Next one. Okay. All bordered up. And we'll press it out. All right, you bring this to your big ironing board and give it a good press. And there are our 2 peony stars. Block number 9 is complete. I hope you've had fun making this block. A little bit of a different take on a quilt block, the Peony star. But that's what I love about this quilt. They're all using the same techniques, but building very different things. So keep at it. We're almost to the halfway point. In fact, number 10, halfway there. All right, we'll see you next time.